folks, I'm voicing this over because when I originally shoot the video I didn't want to scare the little bird hiding in the grass. So those are our neighbors' newly hatched chicks, a couple of weeks old. It seems that they have been allowed now to roam freely, so they come immediately to our yard to forage. They spend their first weeks in an enclosure just to be safe when they're very little, but after that our neighbors allow them to roam free, and the first thing they do after they're out of the enclosure is rush to the fence and come to our yard. And our asparagus patch, which is on the fence line, offers a perfect spot for them to feel safe. It's dense, so it offers protection, and also they can stay close to their mom. I accidentally found out the little birds when I was preparing to start trimming the grass in the orchard meadow, and I was just looking for stuff left from the kids like toys, and I heard the tiny chirping. So now I decided to make a short video about the hens and their offspring in the orchard. I will shoot another video after I stream the orchard and talk a bit more about our plans. For the hens and broilers we want to free range in the orchard, but for now I just wanted to capture our first sight of the little chicks and talk for a second about the benefits of having such birds in your orchard. There are multiple benefits in fact, but for us the most important one is pest management, because so it happens that in early spring, when most of the fruit flies and other pests on fruit trees emerge from the soil after overwintering there, this is exactly the time when the hens need fresh protein the most. So it works very nice together. After the winter time, the grass is also shorter, so it's easy for them to scratch and find the newly emerging bugs. And I have friends with free range birds in their orchard, and they generally don't need to spray anything for the fruit fly and the maggot fly and the plum curculio, and also most of the beetles whose larvae eat the wood of the fruit trees or their roots. So besides fertilizing and keeping the grass short, at least for a period of time, pest control is the most important thing we're looking to get out of those birds. And of course, eggs and then meat. This is how you can have little chicks without actually having little chicks. Those little birds come from our neighbors. Our fence is made with this mesh, which has very large squares, so it's not a problem for the little birds to pass through. And our yard offers much more interesting forage for them, so they really prefer coming here. The first part of this clip, it was taken yesterday before I trimmed the grass, and they can find their foraging to the asparagus patch here along the fence line. It's like a jungle for them. But now that the grass is shorter here, they're becoming more and more brave and curious, so they're exploring further. And those are the younger batch, and we have other group of a bit older, maybe 10 days older little birds, which I'll show you now. This is the older group. I think there is 12 chicks in here. They're already foraging in all the orchard, and I suspect that they'll be visiting the vegetable beds sometimes next week. The same scenario played out last year, and it becomes rather funny at some point when they have a hard time squeezing through the holes of the fence, but they still insist coming in for the forage. So oftentimes you get pullets stuck in the fence, flapping their wings desperately to pass one way or another. Generally, they don't do any damage because most of the plants in the garden at this stage are established. So we don't limit or chase them away. Actually, I rather enjoy them, and we use them as a like a test run for our actual plans for the orchard, because the long-term plans for this space, the 2 rows of trees next to the fence line, is to have pastured hens and probably broilers. So those little birds feeling more at home here is a very welcome sight. You can see that they prefer to stay in the shade and under the cover of the trees. They feel more safe that way, and in a few years' time the orchard will close up as a canopy as the trees become older and larger. So I hope it will be a good place for the birds to live. You can see that birds which are grown outside, they already have a nice scratching instinct, and they're very good at foraging even at this young age. You can hear their mommy cautiously warning them, be careful, because I'm coming nearer to them. There is she. I will use the presence of the little chicks in the orchard as an excuse to talk a bit more about our plans for this space. So here in the left part of the shot, we will erect a low fence, dug-in fence, maybe 1.50 centimeters, which will allow us to control the access of the birds to the vegetable garden. So when we need them to work on the vegetable beds in late autumn and early spring and in winter when there's no snow, they will be allowed to roam there. And in the other months they will be confined to the orchard. We'll put a hen house integrated with the vermicomposting system somewhere here in this empty spot. And probably a few rabbits as well. And we'll make the fence a bit denser, adding a second layer of mesh. And then we will start sectioning the orchard in 10 or 12 pieces with the moving fence, which will allow us to direct the hens to work in a specific section, a specific part of the orchard, as I don't want them to be concentrated all the time in one spot. And probably we'll have one of those mesh tunnels where the hens can run down and up, and have little doors or hatches that open at specific locations. So each section should have about 50 to 75 square meters of foraging space. And you can see here the canopy is starting to close. This is our white cherry. It's almost ripe. It has decent fruit set. And this is our late Van cherry, which suffered greatly from the rains, but you can still pick nice fruit, great for fresh eating. So that was sweet. So in time this space will be more and more shady and enclosed, and we have lots of different forage here besides the diverse meadow that I streamed yesterday. We also have mulberries, white, pink and black along the fence line, so that allows for lots of forage on the ground. And also I have started propagating comfrey along each of the fruit trees around the base of it, as I wasn't really sure at the beginning how quickly it would grow. I put just a little piece of fruit, for example here on this young quince tree, just maybe like a 5 centimeter segment of fruit here, and it grew. But now that I know how it develops, I will propagate one of the larger bushes in autumn or in early spring and put several pieces of fruit along the stem, so it makes more like a dense cover. And comfrey is a very good plant for many reasons, but in this context I plan to be using it as forage. It has over 20% protein content, so it's really feasible to feed the birds without any additional protein feed, especially soy. which I rather dislike. And if you don't insist on having super high numbers of egg production, I think that you can work with just comfrey and other protein-rich forage. For example, this is the reason we see that clover here. You can't see it now, but maybe 50% of the plants in this meadow are white and red clover. So that's the general plan for the orchard, and I hope we'll have the chance to put it in action sometime in the next 2 years. I'll be leaving you now with a shot of our ripe red currants, which I'll be picking today, possibly with the help of the kids, and we'll be making some cordial and some sweet and sour homemade ice cream.